Good afternoon. My guest is an Emmy and Peabody award-winning actor, writer, and creator. He is one of the most in-demand and creative faces in the worlds of film, television, and theater. He was named among Time Magazine's most influential people and Entertainment Weekly's Entertainers of the Year. He is a veteran of Detroit and Chicago's The Second City. He is known to millions of fans as the co-creator and co-star of Comedy Central's Key and Peele with Jordan Peele. Fans of Key and Peele? The show went on to win the 2016 Emmy Award for Outstanding Variety Sketch Series and won the 2014 Peabody Award and an American Comedy Award for Best Alternative Comedy Series. The show has become a TV and viral sensation. It ran for a phenomenal 5 seasons. On television, he made a name for himself as a series regular on Fox's MADtv for 6 seasons. MADtv fans. Other recurring series include Fargo, Playing House, Reno 911. He can currently be seen on Netflix, starring as Ethan in Nick Stoller's comedy series Friends from College. Yes, the role garnered him a 2018 NAACP award nomination, and the show has been renewed for a 2nd season. It is hilarious. Go to Netflix for that. This past summer, he made his New York stage debut as Horatio, starring opposite Oscar Isaac and Sam Gold's critically acclaimed, sold-out production of Hamlet at the Public Theater. It was one of the most amazing pieces of theater I had seen. On television, he was also seen in Children's Hospital, Parks and Recreation, and Gary Unmarried. Upcoming films include Shane Black's The Predator and Jon Favreau's The Lion King as the hyena Kamari. Can't wait to hear about that. He was recently seen on the big screen in the comedies Win It All, Don't Think Twice, and Why Him, in which he co-starred with James Franco, Bryan Cranston, and Megan Mullally. Other films include Keanu, which he co-starred and produced, yes, alongside Jordan Peele, Pitch Perfect 2, Horrible Bosses 2, lots of 2s. Let's Be Cops, Wonderlust, Just Go With It, Role Models, Hell Baby, Afternoon Delight, and Due Date. He is also one of the most sought-after vocal artists for such films as Storks, The Star, Angry Birds, Hotel Transylvania 2, and The Wild Bunch. And now he has made his Broadway debut in Steve Martin's new comedy, Meteor Shower, starring alongside Amy Schumer, Laura Benanti, and Jeremy Shamus. Please welcome to the stage, Keegan-Michael Key.
Hello. Thank you so much.
That is some bio.
All right. I mean, time left.
My God, you've done a lot. Well, first off, welcome to Broadway.
Thank you so much.
You made your Broadway debut.
I did. I know. It's exciting. It's one of those. I think very often what happens, it ends up being one of those dreams deferred.
Yeah.
Sometimes because if an actor is anything, they're typically horribly and profoundly insecure. So you think to yourself, well, it's never going to be me. It's never going to happen. But it did. And it's as everyone says, it's as surreal as everyone says. Because at the end of the day, where the surreal stuff comes from is that you just go to work. You go to work. And you're filled with joy that you get to do this as a job. It's such a wonderful and honorable profession. There's not a lot of professions, especially in this day and age, that you can say, oh, my profession's a 3,000-year-old profession. You know what I mean? It's such an interesting thing. And it's been amazing, and my cup runneth over.
What have you enjoyed the most about being on Broadway? Because I know it was a dream of yours.
For the most part, the thing is the camaraderie with your castmates. I'm also, I think a lot of it is because I'm an athlete, and the best thing is that you like being on a team, and you like feeling. In fact, Jerry Zaks, who directed Meteor Shower, used to say often during the rehearsal process, he goes, "You guys, it's going to be wonderful. And once you all learn your lines, it's going to be so good and everything. It's just going to be like the Golden State Warriors out there." He can't help. It's very. I mean, they're very akin to each other. Is the kind of being able to the physical and emotional telepathy that you have with your fellow castmates or fellow teammates is what really excites me and really energizes me. And it's those days when you say something at the same time and you weren't expecting to, or that little twist comes. And it's the same thing as playing basketball and just knowing a person's gonna set that pick and you didn't talk about it before and it just happens. And that is the thing, that camaraderie and that sense of, that fluid sense of a group mind is what really excites me. Mostly, I think a lot of it comes from my background in improvisation. So the thing that I craved and I loved and I enjoyed so much during my theatrical training carried over into my improvisational training. It wasn't about making it up on the spot as much as it was everybody, I'm quoting somebody right here, Mike Nichols said this about Nichols and May, was that the best moments when we were improvising would be these moments where you would set up the environment and kind of figure out what your relationship was, and then all of a sudden the two of you would know where the comedic engine of the scene was going to happen. It was just a matter of who was going to get there first. And so they would, who's going to figure out the game of how this scene should be played. Well, that's been prescribed, right? Steve Martin has already written that part. But that's the thing that I love. It's once all of that's aside and you're just in behavior land. Yeah. That's why anybody does it. Yeah. That's really, I feel like, the reason you do it. Yeah.
Well, you were sharing the stage with Amy Schumer, Laura Benanti, Jeremy Shamus. It's like a tennis match up there with the four of you.
Great way of putting it. Really great way of putting it. Yeah, it's all of that bumping back and forth. It's lots of assists before the basket is scored. You know what I mean? Lots of the setup seemed to be as dynamic as when the slam dunk happened or the home run happened or the touchdown happened, to speak using my sports theater,
analogy.
Mashup, yeah. Analogy, yeah.
Working with your idol, Steve Martin.
Well, here's the thing about Steve. Steve is very different. If you guys are Steve Martin fans and you know his film work, that kind of unbridled energy and that very extroverted sensibility that he has on screen is not who he is in real life. He's an extremely quiet man. He lives a very considered life. He's a thinker. He's an intellectual, and he's also a fine tuner. And he's been that way his whole career. It's part of where his brilliance comes from, is that he never quits trying to refine and find clarity in whatever he's working on. And I was actually talking to Martin Short recently, and he and Martin Short and Steve they work together a lot. And Marty said, it's interesting, if you talk to Steve and go, think about how wild your success was in the 70s, when remember the white suit and the bunny ears and all the wild and crazy guy stuff. He said, think about that. That alone could have been the measure of your career. And Steve said, a lot of energy, not a lot of substance. He was the biggest thing, right? SNL and The Jerk and all of the writing he was doing, everything. And he said, too much energy, not a lot of substance. Then you jump to the next part of his career, and then he has something, not disparaging, but some critique of when he was doing most of the film work. And then you talk about how wonderful his lyrical and beautiful the books are. Just maybe they were too stilted. He's never satisfied, and there is this kind of divine dissatisfaction that artists should always be experiencing. Once you start resting on your laurels, then all of a sudden you realize you've made the same movie 6 times in a row. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
He loves the theater.
He adores the theater. Yeah. Well, because his taste of the theater, it's funny, we were sitting in the audience when we were doing tech, and he was just talking to me, and I just wanted to talk to him, And he said, it's interesting, when I was at Knott's Berry Farm in Los Angeles when he was 16 years old, or 19 years old, he had just finished doing all this work at Knott's Berry Farm, and then he had done some summer stock theater. And I don't remember what the play was, but he was doing some summer stock, and he said, and I just kind of did it like melodrama. I just did melodrama. And then 35 years later, he's in Godot with Robin Williams. And he said, you know what? I just did the same thing. I just did the same thing over again. And it worked. It worked. Try that. I was like, whatever you say, Steve. And it's really, really fascinating that was his takeaway from acting. Yeah. But he loves watching the theater. And he'd come to the show all the time. He's in LA now working on something else, but he would come to the show and we wouldn't know he'd be there. And we'd do our performance and we'd come backstage and there's Steve with this just beaming. And he's just like, ooh, ooh. And he's got like cards like these. And I have this note. So I'm gonna put that line in that you improvised tonight. I'm gonna put that in. That's good. So that should be in the script. And then he backs up and emails you later to let you know. I wanted to know, I put holy shit sticks and grab my balls and call me Robert. They're in the script now. Those are in the script. Those are really good improv. I don't know what they mean, Keegan, but that was hilarious. And all 4 of us have pitched in and put lines into the, by the way, Laura Benanti had to tell me this. I don't know. What do I know? So I said to Laura backstage, we spent a lot of time like this close to each other backstage, like hiding in the wings. And I said, given the energy and the creature and the animal that Amy Schumer is, she's instantly inspiring and instantly creating. And she's such a strong improviser. And you think of her as, in her stand-up, all of that material is measured and written, and that's true. It just shows the diversity of who she is and the spectrum of what she can do. She's unbelievable. So I said to Laura, look at all the stuff that has happened in this show in the last 2 months. I said, half of the hardest, most solid laughs are improvised. And I said, this can't be normal. And she goes, oh, no, this never happens on Broadway. No, this is an absolute no-no on Broadway. Absolute no-no. And she goes, and I'm loving every minute of it. and because what are you gonna do? I mean, Amy's gonna do what she wants, and it's brilliant. Why would you stop? Like, why would you stop? You're like, oh, that's not in the lines, deal with it. Yeah, you see the people, a man just died in the audience, and a woman just coughed her lung up, so we're gonna keep that line. It's amazing. So my first experience on Broadway has been this very fluid, loose, playful thing. Yeah. And so I want to do Broadway again because I want to have the Broadway experience. I want to have where I have to, because there's that lovely challenge of doing almost the same thing every night, but finding a way to trick your mind into making it fresh every night. I want that challenge because this is great. I mean, it's perfectly fine. We can say whatever the hell we want. So that liberal kind of looseness to the show is wonderful, and it makes it a very unique production. But I want to have that other experience too, Yeah.
I love that. Very interesting. Yeah. You were working with one of the finest directors. You started talking about Jerry Zaks. Talk about the difference of working on comedy.
Why am I touching those? I don't know why I'm touching those.
It's good, right? We all have that.
Hi, I'm Richie Rich. Here with. We're gonna flip. Let's just switch it. Okay.
We'll switch
do a little improv game. Okay.
Talk about honing comedy for this play as opposed to how quick you have to do it on TV. Like when you work in the theater.
Yeah, that's the thing that, it's funny, it's interesting, and Jerry and I had a nice conversation about this. I don't know, there's a bunch of reasons that I'm just ignorant of, I'm woefully ignorant of. Because I'm a producer, but not in the way I'm not a producer like every kind of producer wrapped in one. That's my fiance. She's every single producer wrapped into one. She's producing my life in the most wonderful way right now. It's great. It's amazing. And I mean that in the most positive way. I'm not trying to be pejorative about. I wouldn't be here. Actually, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my fiance. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But the thing about Sidney Lumet. The great Sidney Lumet used to, yes, please, we should. Sidney Lumet used to do everything he could to work a theatrical-like rehearsal process before they ever got anywhere near a set. And that to him was the most important thing to do. Well, let's just rehearse it so that it becomes behavior to the actors. And I know a few actors who did films with him. That sounds like the most glorious thing in the world. Because then you do 2 takes and you move on. Like, why wouldn't a producer want it to be done that way? Why would you not want to take 3 weeks prior to the shoot and rehearse it? And that's not something that we do in this industry, in our industry. We just don't do that as much. You go to China, you talk about, there'll be movies that they make in China, like maybe they'll make a kung fu movie or a wuxia film, and you'll see that you'll go, oh, well, that's amazing. How did they do that? Well, they subsidize the filmmaking there. So you can do 60 takes. You can do 60 takes. And no one's going in. Jackie Chan, we talked about, he goes, there's a thing I've seen in Jackie Chan films where you watch a movement and you're like, wait a minute, he just took that, he hit that guy, and then the fan, and then he caught the fan. And then I heard a Q&A with him one time, well, it was 121 takes. But nobody cares because it's paid for. So who cares? So you get to get this piece of magic on screen because nobody cares. And that's the beauty of the theater, is that that is the process, is that we're gonna hone this and hone this. When I was at the Second City, people walk up to you on the street like, man, I saw your show. I'm sorry, Chicago. I saw your show. You guys were fantastic. And you guys are so much better than Saturday Night Live. And I was like, that's completely unfair to Saturday Night Live. Yeah. That's completely unfair. They are putting up a show that they've rehearsed 3 times while they rewrite it. every week. I had 3.5 months to write this show. So, geez, we better be better than SNL. I mean, we had three months to write it and a month of previews? Yeah, it better be better than SNL. It's the fact that I laugh every week at SNL. That's amazing. That shows the talent of those people on that show, the writing staff and the actors on that show. That's insane. It's insane that they can put quality material out there every week. The schedule is such a challenge. So in the theater, in a manner, it's like a luxury. It's just this amazing luxury that you get to hone it and you understand why you're doing it. Very often on camera, sometimes you have to just give yourself a line reading. You know, there are those days where you just don't have the time, and they got you in they got you in the ECU or a close-up, and you just go, and that's all. There's nothing behind it. You're not acting. There's no behavior. You're just going, and that's it. And then let the editor work their magic because you just don't have the time. Editors should win all the Oscars. There just shouldn't even be Oscars. They should just give them to the editors.
Fabulous.
They should just give them to the editors. I believe that, but you know who said that? Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep said
Fabulous.
That. She says, the editor.
Has being a part of Meteor Shower made you a better actor?
100%. 100%. Because it helps me with my listening skills.
Yeah.
The challenge I have, I can't speak for every other actor, a challenge that I face often is the challenge of actually, it's a similar challenge in both on stage and real life. I shouldn't be waiting for you to finish speaking so I can speak. I should be listening to everything you say and then react to what you say, right? That's the whole, there's the old saying, it's like, I'm not an actor, I'm a reactor. And, I can't take credit for that one either. But there's a truth to that. And it's why improvisation is so infectious.
Yeah.
Because it's the only thing you've got. And one of the greatest, so it's made me a better actor in that way because there are nights when there are also nights in projects I've done in my life where I've gone, oh, you really haven't learned these lines rote. Because when you find yourself reacting to a person, like in the rehearsal process, you're like, I got these lines. And then the director gives you a note, and you change it, or you actually, you release everything and all abandon, and you're actually just listening to the other actor, and then you can't come up with the line? Because it's not in your marrow. It's not in your marrow. And that's what you gotta do. You gotta make sure it's in your marrow. And sometimes that's, Laura was saying to me the other day on stage, backstage, she was going, that's why I love a nice long run. The best ingredient is when it's so in your marrow, you're dreaming about it, it's in your marrow, it's just like you know how to speak another language fluently. And then that way, that line should be this, that on Tuesday, but it should be that on Thursday, and on Saturday in the matinee, it should be like this. Same words, but you should always be reacting to whatever's going on with them in that moment. And that's something I'll never stop learning.
Yeah.
Because you have to not be afraid to just release and go, trust me, the words are there. Jerry's like, oh, sweetheart, the words are there. You got the words are there. And so, that's the greatest. When the words are there, that's the greatest because then you're just flying and just behaving. Yeah.
Well, the four of you are perfect in this show. You have this weekend. That's what you have, right? You have this weekend if you haven't seen the show yet. Just a terrific job. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Growing up in Detroit, where did your love for performing begin? And what were your earliest creative outlets?
It began with television. It began with television. I was a big fan of early SNL, and I used to like watch old movies. My other favorite thing was I've watched countless kung fu movies. That's my favorite thing. The plot's very simple, and I always was interested. There's something that I gravitate toward when the plot is simple, and then all of a sudden you fill in the set piece with all this beautiful, beautiful movement and action, and then you just move to the next. And I love, especially when it's unabashed, when someone does it unabashedly. When someone unabashedly goes, we're only gonna write this little plot point to move here so we have an excuse for another fight scene. I love that. I just love that because it's so they're not even trying hard to trick you or even create any artifice that helps you know what I mean. And then every now and again in the world, something gets created like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where the acting's gorgeous and the set designs when everything comes together. And you need the fight scene as opposed to making an excuse or having a conceit for the fight scene. And those were my earliest influences. And I think, and watching like, it's weird, I used to watch award shows and I didn't know who the people were. Like I didn't know who they were. I just knew somehow they're different than me or set apart from me or I guess they're important, these people. I wasn't quite sure what the situation was, but I was fascinated by them. And then so really on the playground at school is where the first outlets were. I was a painfully shy kid. And I did not have any, I had no designs on being an actor. I wanted to be an actor, but I'm just a kid in Detroit with two parents who are social workers that make 30 grand a year. And you know what I mean? And you're just there and nobody I know is in the entertainment industry. I don't even know how you do this. So it seems like it's a thing that people from other places do. Or there's a Cabbage Patch in Los Angeles that just sprouts actors. You know, I'm like, they don't come from anywhere else. I didn't know. So you just played with your friends and made jokes. As you can see, I'm a man of a slight build. I always have been. I was not a strong kid. I wasn't gonna be able to fight my way out of something. So you joke your way out of something. Or you charm your way out of something. And the other kids can catch a football. That's their currency. This was my currency. So I didn't think it was a real great practical skill. I didn't think it would become my livelihood or my vocation, but yeah, that's pretty much the answer to that question, yeah.
Because you wanted to be a veterinarian.
I wanted to be a veterinarian.
But what kind? A truck driving?
I was gonna, one of my favorite TV shows was BJ and the Bear. No, you're not. You're not old enough to know what BJ and the Bear is. This lady's living right. There is no way she is old enough to know BJ and the Bear. BJ and the Bear was a team for anybody who's under my age. So you know, remember BJ? Like he was a truck driver and he had adventures and he had a pet chimpanzee. Like who doesn't want to do that? Who doesn't want to be a truck driver with a pet chimpanzee? And I said, oh, I'll one up it. I'll be a truck driver. I'll drive around and be a veterinarian. I'll like go to and then have adventures, like solve crimes and help animals. I love it. I mean, why not? I mean, that's as good a job as any other job. And I'll have like a mongoose as opposed to a chimpanzee. I don't know, something. I'll pick some other exotic animal. Ocelot.
That could be a new show for you now.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. I could just do it right now.
Watch it, right? You'd watch it, right?
Yeah. Make like a nice retro show, right?
Yeah,
right?
totally.
KMK and the Bear, or, you know, something like
Fabulous.
that. Anyway, so I love that show. So I thought I'll be a veterinarian. And the more I went in school, like by the time I got to junior high, I realized I do not have an aptitude for mathematics. I have a feeling I'm not the only one in this room. And this teacher's like, yeah, screw math. And so when I realized I was gonna have to do nothing but math to be a veterinarian, like it's not just, like I went to the vet, that was cool. The vet just petted my dog's head and gave her a shot, and I was like, that's easy. But no, so I said that was not gonna be, I was gonna go on a different career path, but I didn't know what it was at the time, but yeah, that was my thing.
So how did playing Jesus in Godspell at 17 change everything for you?
My drama teacher, well, you know what? How it changed everything is that when somebody believes in you, you're given extra currency. It's the most important thing in the world that my drama teacher was our choir teacher in my high school. I just went, well, I'm going to do my best, and then my friend Chris Burke is going to get cast because Chris Burke is a senior. That's just the way the life works, right? I grew up in a kind of a working class town. Seniority, you move to the next step, and that's how that works. So Chris is a senior. Chris will be cast as Jesus. And then when I found out I was cast as Jesus, I'm like, but what? You're not, there's no escaping it. Yeah. At least this person who is an authority figure in your life that you respect, that person says, no, you can do the job. There's something intrinsic about you. I'm not picking anybody else, I'm picking you. And I know you can do it, Keegan. It means the world to you. It means the world to you when somebody gives you a shot, when someone gives you a chance. Then you can't argue. Now you could work really hard and sabotage yourself. But I didn't want to let her down.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let her down. And so I said, well, maybe the easiest way to get through this is to maybe just believe what Miss Rashid says. Maybe I'll just believe her that I have what it takes to do it. And then I'll be able to make her happy. It wasn't about making me happy. It was about not wanting to disappoint her.
And you loved it.
I loved every second of it. Someone said to me, well, how did it feel, man? How did it feel? A friend of mine, like, and you're in high school. I'll never forget a guy in high school. He was a senior and he was really lovely to me. And I was, I think I was a junior or whatever. And he said to me after the show, he's like, man, I was just sitting there, man. I don't even know, man. I was just like sitting there, and I was just like at the end, and then they were like carrying you and stuff, and like prepare you, and this, and then I was like, what? My face is wet, man. and then being an 18-year-old boy, it's like, fuck you, fag, because that's like, because you can't, he's like vulnerability, But how?
Yeah.
But what was that? Yeah. You know what I mean? That guy, and another guy who was on the football team, like crazy hard ass guy on the football team. He's like, the kid was out there, man, in his boxer shorts. Takes guts, man. Takes guts. And so something, and then all of a sudden I'm looking at these people, but you see this group of people out there, like a single organism, and I went, oh, screw veterinary medicine. This is where it's at. What is this? And I wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been for Miss Mary Rashid.
See?
Yeah.
Everybody has a teacher like that.
Everyone's got a teacher. Miss Mary Rashid, yep.
You went to college to train to become a classic actor. So how did you go from that to Second City?
Well, I did my undergrad and I got a bachelor's and a master's in fine arts and I just I just figured I'm gonna do what all my friends do. We all seem to kind of be, like, we're all poor, but we're happy. And so that's cool. I can just do this. And I'll build the theater scene here in Detroit and with my friends. But I wanted more. I wanted something more. And so I went to graduate school. And then once I got to graduate school, which was kind of also very much like a British training center. It had that feel to it, where lots of technique, lots and lots and lots of technique. And I liked that because it helped. I felt like there were linchpins in the training. You can always fall back on this piece of technique or this piece of technique, this piece of technique. And then I went to go audition for the Illinois Shakespeare Festival. And they wanted me to play a character, the clown character in Pierre Marivaux's Game of Love and Chance, which I had just done at Penn State at my graduate school the year before. And they also wanted me to play Trinculo in The Tempest. And I thought, okay, this will be great. But a friend of mine who was going to school here in New York, she was at Columbia University, she was doing her thesis. And she wanted me to come home to Detroit, we're gonna shoot it in Detroit, and be the lead role in this independent film she was making. And I didn't want to disappoint her, so I picked her over the people I didn't know at the Illinois Shakespeare Festival. And that was one of the first, most definitive kind of defining forks in the road in my life. And so I went home to make that movie, and I met a bunch of people in the cast, and a lot of people in the cast were performing at the Second City Detroit. At this particular time in the history of the Second City Improv Theater, they had been franchising. So they had been opening little Second Cities in other places, and my hometown happened to be one of them. So I made the movie, and the guys in the movie said, you should go to Second City and audition. Much to my chagrin, how dare you? I'm a classically trained dramatic actor. How dare you? And but I'd be cutting up between takes and stuff like that. And so I went and auditioned and I got in. And that was the beginning of this 19-year detour that I went on away from, who knows, we'll never know. There's some alternative universe that exists in the world right now where I went to the Illinois Shakespeare Festival and maybe right now I'd be on the circuit. I'd be doing Utah and Ashland and Colorado shakes and Alabama shakes but who knows? I went this other direction. And that's kind of the pathway that got me from school to Second City.
Love it.
Yeah.
One of your first big career changers was MADtv. MADtv fans? What made you say, I want to audition for that?
The executive producer was a gentleman by the name of Dick Blasucci, and he was a Second City touring company grad. Now here's the little info that you might like about Dick Blasucci. This guy, you can understand the kind of research this guy does. I just told you that I was supposed to play Trinculo at the Illinois Shakespeare Festival. You know why I know that? He reminded me of that. I couldn't. I told somebody this the other day, and I got the play wrong and the line wrong. Illinois Shakespeare Festival, The Winter's Tale, maybe? I was amazing. You're amazing. Anyway, amazing. Anyway, what was I saying?
MADtv, Dick.
MADtv, Dick Blasucci. Dick Blasucci
Love this.
was from Wheaton, Illinois, and was in a rock band in 1969 called the Ravens, and the lead singer of that rock band was John Belushi. And they were very dear friends, and they said, you should come into the city, come to Chicago in the city. There's this cool thing coming on. And Dick Blasucci became a member of the touring company at Second City. Wow. Went through his career, was a writer at SCTV, and then became the EP at MADtv. And so he was scouting talent at Second City. And so as he was scouting that, I said, if he's part of this lineage, I'm gonna trust him. If he's part of this lineage, I'm gonna trust him. And look, I love improvisation as an art as much as anybody. I teach it. I try to live it as much as I can. But to a person, if you're working at the Second City, it's ubiquitous. It's all over you, all around you, that you're playing AAA baseball. And if you want, or you wouldn't do it, right? If you're here, you're playing AAA baseball, which means that the major leagues are around the corner. They're being scouted all the time at Second City. Lauren's there all the time. People from the new MADtv are there all the time. People looking for maybe someone who they think could launch a new YouTube channel are there all the time. So you know something could happen if you're there. And so when that opportunity came, it made logical sense to jump and do the audition for the show. Yeah.
You had 6 memorable seasons on that show. A lot of impersonations.
Yeah.
Incredible impersonation. I know a lot of you have many fans of the many people that you've done in that show. Who was the first impersonation you learned, and who was the most challenging?
The first impersonation I learned ever, this is such a weird one, that I ever worked on, was David Carradine as Kwa Chang Caine in the television show Kung Fu, which is not really that difficult to do. It's just,
Do you remember it? Can you bring it up from sense memory?
Yeah,
is it in your marrow?
Oh yeah, it's in my marrow. It's really easy because all you'd have to do is remember the Kwa Chang Caine would walk into a town with his staff, right? There'd be a bunch of like white hillbilly cowboys. The hell's going on there, Chinaman? You know what I mean? And they'd surround him, right? And then he would say, and then he would just, I mean you no harm. And I didn't have to change the timbre of my voice or anything. There was nothing really dynamic about the impersonation. He was just like, and my favorite thing is when he would ask his master questions. The blind guy, remember the blind guy? What do you think, grasshopper? And he'd be like, Master, I do not know. The impersonation is really just William Shatner, but softer. It's just James T. Kirk, but softer, like this broken language, you know. I could go on and on about Kung Fu. Television show created by Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee was not allowed to play the role.
Yeah.
Was not allowed to play the role that he created. So instead of making the character a Chinese character, his mother was Chinese, but his father was English. So he was interracial, and they thought that'd be okay for TV. Little tidbit there.
I love that.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging?
The most challenging, gosh, that's a really good question. Sometimes you get your impressions from other people's impressions. So like the president, like Obama was building stuff, was taking 2 things. I'm avoiding the question because I can't think of what the most challenging was. But I think like doing Snoop Dogg was tough to try to get. It was more about getting the syntactical dynamics of it. So it's less about getting all that. It's less about getting the timbre than it was about the fact that he talks like this and moves it up and down like that. You know what I mean? It took a while to get that into place. It's all the yappa-dip-dappa-dip-do. You know, I'm gonna end it like this, my shizzle, but that wet whistle. You know, and then you start to put the pitch variation into it. You know, full disclosure, I'm lying to you. The first one was not quite. The first one was Kwa Chang Caine. The one that I was known for the most is one you can't do anymore. which I had found a way to get in the pocket on Bill Cosby, and you just can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? It's just, so, and once, that was the one that helped me kind of key in as to how to do impressions better. But yeah, and that was the trade that we trafficked in at MADtv. Yeah, it was.
All right. MADtv is where you began to work with your future partner, Jordan Peele.
Yes.
But of course, you had met him before. But talk about how did they put the two of you together?
Well, the fact of it is, we put ourselves together. And in fact, more to the point, Jordan put us together. Jordan is a very tactical thinker. I think Jordan could be like a chess master if he wanted to, which makes for a good director. He really could. He's really fantastic. They hired him, then they hired me a few months later. And Aries Spears was also on the show. So now you have a sketch comedy show with 3 African Americans on it. That doesn't happen. Someone's gonna go. Someone has to go. And to MADTV's credit, we did like a season and a half, or almost 2 seasons with Aries. Yeah. So that they didn't have any qualms about there being 2 black women and 3 black men on the show, which I thought was really fantastic. But they put me and Jordan on the show together to compete with each other. And Jordan, it's very sweet of him to say this, but Jordan said, I saw that things were going his way and the momentum was going his way. And he said, he's quoted as saying, I stuck to Keegan's side like those little fish do to sharks. Yeah. And I was like, and he said it in an interview together with me one time. I was like, what? That's news to me. Like, I thought you were the mastermind. That was, But then we started writing scenes together, and he was like, if we write our scenes together and we make ourselves indispensable as a team, they can't fire either of us.
Fabulous.
And so that's what we did. That's how it worked. Yeah.
Just beautiful.
He's brilliant. The guy's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, you are known to millions of fans from your Emmy and Peabody Award-winning comedy series, Key and Peele, which has gone viral.
Yeah, it's really insane. I think in the aggregate, we have somewhere just shy of 1 billion hits. A billion.
A billion. A billion.
Yes, I can't get my head around that. Yeah. But it's really quite surprising. We didn't. There's alchemy that you just don't ever know how to efficiently explain. I don't know why we fit or how we fit. The circumstances of the universe just brought us together, and it worked. And it just worked. And I don't really know. I just knew when our manager, it was really our manager's idea, he said, I just think that I've got some interest from these 2 entities that want to do television shows with you guys. What if we paired you together and created a leverage situation? And I said, I'd be more than happy to work with Jordan again. I think that he is one of the best writers. He was one of the best writers on our show. No offense to our writing staff at MADtv, just he's such an original thinker. And he felt some affinity to me, so we just came together and it coalesced beautifully. And I think a lot of it was because we shared a lot of common nomenclature. We have all the same training in our improvisational training. He grew up a kind of a song and dance kid, and there's a place here on the Upper West Side called Tada. Yeah. And that's where he's from. He's from Tada. And we were introduced by a fellow colleague, an improviser, a sketch writer named Becky Drysdale. And Becky was on our staff. There'd be no Key and Peele if it weren't for Becky Drysdale. She introduced us. Somebody up here knows Becky Drysdale. And her brother Eric, who wrote for the Colbert for years and still does. And so I don't really know. It's very ephemeral. It's very ethereal. I don't know how to describe what our partnership is. There was a common language, and then there were 2 skill sets that just locked in, and it worked.
Because collaborations are so special, but like you said, a lot of times you can't explain it, you just go on the ride.
Yeah, and to us it feels natural. Yeah. Like it feels natural to us. The same way, and as our life continues, it feels natural to us because you're living your life. You're living your life. So when Get Out came out, I was like, oh, look at this documentary. And then I just got like fucking white people fainting in movie theaters. Like, what is this? And some black people too, But to me and Jordan, I was like, well, of course that's the movie Jordan wrote. Yeah. It's our life heightened. It's me and Jordan's life heightened. It's nothing. It's very special because it became a phenomenon. But he has this thing of touching into human behavior. The thing about the show for us was always just the fact that we're just going to do scenes about humans that are vain and scared and insecure and happy and covering things up and emasculated and validated. We're just going to write a lot of sketches about human beings that we think are super funny, and they just happen to have melanin in their skin. And that's it. That was it. And a lot of that has to do with just our point of view on life. Just being blurs. And you do an interview and people are like, what's a blurred? I go, a blurred? A black nerd. You don't know what a blurred is? And people, but that's my life. I am a blurred. So I've been a blurred my whole life. So it just felt kind of natural. And one of our executive producers, Ian Roberts is one of the creators of the Upright Citizens Brigade, with Amy Poehler and what we call the Mats. And Ian said to me, he said, at the end of the day, no matter what, you have to have enough courage to make sure that you make what speaks to you. And then no matter how big or small the audience, you will find your audience. And they'll be rabid.
Yeah.
But we were just fortunate enough that it has this wide appeal, because we're just trying to tell human stories. Folks are just trying to get over in life, no matter what color they are. We wanted to write sketches that had to do with the human condition as much as it had to do with the plight or the socioeconomic situation of a particular group of people.
Well, you tapped into everybody because that was flawless. We watch you every day. I mean, I just go on my iPad and just type them in again. I sit there and just howl.
Yeah, and so much of it is, years ago, I saw The Drowsy Chaperone, and I was watching The Drowsy Chaperone, and there was a bit in The Drowsy Chaperone, and I was looking around at the audience, screaming, laughing. Yeah. And I remember, and I went, huh. And I realized the guy that created The Drowsy Chaperone is a Second City alum. And I went, that's something we would have done at Second City. Yeah. Didn't make it not funny, it's hilarious. But that's something we do at Second City. The same way, like, when I watch a Kung Fu movie with a person who doesn't watch, I'm a maven. So when I watch Kung Fu movies with people who watch Kung Fu movies, they go, what? And I go, oh, that's an old technique. They've been doing that since 1948. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a knowledge base, and somebody at Comedy Central was brave enough to allow us to share that knowledge with a wide audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you created so many hilarious characters on that show. One of the most popular is, of course, Luther.
Yes.
President Barack Obama's anger translator. How did you come up with him?
We were writing the pilot. We were sitting in Jordan's apartment, and we were trying to figure out, he's like, look, we wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for Obama. They would never have given us this show if it wasn't, I mean, it's just true. Like, who knew this was gonna happen? Who knew an interracial guy raised by a white single mother was gonna become the president? Who knew that I was going to become the president? Or Jordan was going to become the president? He was like, we owe it to him. And we have to figure it out. And here you have two guys who both do Obama impressions. So let's figure out how we're gonna do this thing. And Jordan had thought, he said, what was that guy's name, Keegan? I said, Wilson, Joe Wilson, the senator. It was like, you lie! During the House of, what? Never, ever would have happened to another president. I wonder why.
Yeah.
And so we were like, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? If I say something, uppity, angry black man. If I don't say something, ineffectual. Can't win. Yeah. He can't win. We gotta help him win. How do we help him win? And we started thinking about what, as we're culling ideas from our past. And Jordan thought of SNL. Yeah. Remember when Chevy Chase would do the news, and then Garrett Morris would be down in the corner, and for the Society for the Deaf, and he goes, he goes, our top story tonight, the top story tonight! Prime Minister Francisco Franco is still dead. And Jordan's like, if we had someone who would like do that, if we had someone who could do that, Keegan. And I was like, right, and then we're his surrogate. Yeah. Then we're his surrogate. And that's where that came from. Because we thought we saw him caught between the rock and the hard place. Was there any way, so I'll just play his id, and you be his super ego, which is what he has to display to us all the time. He's always displaying his super ego. He can't let go, you know? Yeah, so that was the origin of Luther.
I love it. How much of a pinch me moment was it for you to perform opposite President Obama at the 2015 White House Correspondents' Dinner, which if you haven't watched this, go on YouTube.
It's one of the greatest moments of my life. I didn't even need to say that. You all knew that.
Yeah.
It was the greatest thing about it was how amazing of a straight man he was.
Yeah.
And right before that, when we were rehearsing, we rehearsed for a couple, we rehearsed in an area in the West Wing called the Map Room, which was FDR's favorite room. And FDR and Abraham Lincoln are like two of Obama's favorite presidents. So I thought it was very apropos that we did that there. And there was a podium in there, and he comes in, runs over and gives me a hug. Very tactile guy, but then that freaks you out, because like he's touching you, and you're like, I'm not touching, red dot, but you're like, I'm not touching him! And he's touching me! Don't kill another brother! And so he comes in the room and he starts busting my chest. There he is, King. What's going on? And I was like, sir, it's good to see you. And it's very warm and familiar.
Yeah.
Very warm and familiar. Because I see him as the leader of the free world, but when I look at him, I see me. I don't see a black man, I see me. A half black, half white, raised by a single white mother. That's what I see. Middle class, that's what I see when I see him. As much as I see everything else, the hope for our future and a life that could exist in this world. I see all of that too. All those high-minded things, but there's a comfort that I have with him that is lovely. But I think he makes everybody feel that way. So anyway, so he goes, now, I went over the script. This is some good stuff, but we can't have you breaking up now during this rehearsal. So I was like, all right, sir, absolutely. So he does his thing, says his first line. His first line is something about, I brought Luther here to translate. And then my line is, hold on to your lily white butts. And then he starts cracking up. I was like, come on, sir. And he's like, you got me going. I was like, so we had to run through it a couple times. Yeah. We ran through it a couple times. And then what I did is I figured I learned my lines and his lines. I pull a Will Smith. That's what Will Smith used to do on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. If you ever can watch a take, it's hard to catch him. If you're right, you're right, and you watch him, and while anyone's talking to Will Smith, you'll see him going. He learned their lines and his lines. So I pulled a Will Smith and learned all the lines. I learned all the lines, and just because he's got a couple of things on his plate. I thought he has a couple things on his plate. So maybe I'll just in case he got distracted. And then you got out there, he was just solid. And the way, you see him look glaring at the audience and seething underneath, and then I'm the outlet for his seething anger. And he was doing it with his face. You see him furrowing the brow and looking off over here to let me, throwing focus to me. Well, when did you learn this? When did you go to Juilliard? And so I'm sitting there, and I remember the moment before I walked on stage, I was just excited and hyped for it. I wasn't terrified. I also had no sleep. I was on a movie set in Atlanta, Georgia, the day before. I did a night shoot, so I shot from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Then got in the middle of the woods, drove an hour and a half to Hartsfield, and then flew to DC, and went straight into a tech rehearsal, and then changed my clothes and went straight to the West Wing. So I was delirious. I was eating food and running my lines, and I was delirious. I didn't get nervous until this moment. And it was he was like, Luther, and I'm like, oh God, I'm doing this right now. Just there was no time to sabotage myself. I didn't have any, I was completely distracted. There was no time. And I it's one of those moments. I was so fortunate that the timing all worked out like that, because then I ended up being in the moment. As opposed to going, oh my God, I'm here, 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 oh my God, I'm here. I was in the moment. But then I had this amazing scene partner. And even Michelle at the end, when I go over and put my hand on Michelle, and she's like, oh yeah, huh? Like she was like giving me energy, like, you know, you're getting something from your scene partner. It was great.
Over 7.3 million people have watched this. If you haven't watched this on YouTube, it is one of the funniest and most amazing things you will ever see.
It was something else. And also, the other thing I remember that helped buoy me that evening, just so you know, was saying lines and hearing Laverne Cox cracking up. I love me some Laverne Cox. Laverne's my buddy. She's like, yeah! This is ridiculous! Go!
You can hear her.
You can hear her.
I'm watching this.
But gut busting in the audience. It's the best. Yeah.
Oh. Well, this past summer, you made your New York stage debut as Horatio, starring opposite Oscar Isaac in Sam Gold's critically acclaimed, sold-out run of Hamlet at the Public Theater. Yes, one of the best nights I have ever spent in the theater.
Oh my gosh.
Was that a dream come true, like a full circle moment?
That was a full circle moment. I wanted to play Horatio since I was either in graduate school or like late in college. So a 23-year-old dream came true. Yeah. A 23-year-old dream. And so it was just amazing. And to be able to do it with Sam, for him to just, I wish I could remember the line. There was some line in the New York Times about something about the dusty old cathedral and how either he was excavating it or knocking it down, or some wonderful kind of allusion to that we're not going to say, oh, this august thing is taking place. And he just didn't care in the best way. And the cuts to the script that I thought were so interesting. He would make cuts to the script and he goes, I'm gonna make this the most accessible version of Hamlet ever. I want it to be about you people, you actors, being able to express yourselves with the most clarity possible, so that the audience can also feel and experience that, as opposed to there's lots of language about this and that, and it's beautiful. And sometimes people go and see Shakespeare, and you look at the muscularity with which somebody's done something. You just go, oh, wow, they got all those words out. I don't understand what's going on, but I heard all the words, and they were where I'm from in the Midwest. This is what people say in the Midwest. In the Midwest, your mom and your aunt come to see the show, and afterwards you hear them murmuring about somebody, and they're like, they were so articulate. Which is their way of saying, that's a thing that you can do that I can't do. But that doesn't have anything to do with it connecting with you emotionally. Sam Gold, what makes Sam Gold so special is that he traffics in the qualitative aspects of our craft. And lots of people traffic in the quantitative aspects of our craft. And I think it works both in theater and on screen, right? For example, if I am playing a character who is blind, and we all we've had an experience with a blind human. So if I play a blind person, you can check off in your mind, oh, that's how blind people walk, and that's what blind people's faces look like, and that's how blind people turn their head when they hear. We should give him the Oscar, because I've seen a blind person, and that's how blind people act. As opposed to something that's qualitative, which is just that, oh God, she's ripping something out of me. She's invoking something. She's evocative. And I don't know why, you know what I mean? So does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Sam wants his work to be evocative and qualitative. And it's easier to try to do quantitative work. So when I say clarity, I mean clarity of the heart, not oral clarity, necessarily speaking. And so the piece was so raw and so revealing. And I remember, I'd be in rehearsal and I'm like, oh, now finally, it's been, all these years I get to use my training. And then here's Sam Gold, stop, throw the verse out. I want to hear your Keegan Midwestern accent. You're softening R's, it's getting a little transatlantic. I want you. I want you to take all of your proverbial clothes off and just do this show for 4 hours a night naked in front of this audience. That's what I want from you and everybody else in this cast. And I feel like we, to some degree, achieved that.
Oh, you did.
Especially Oscar. And what a challenge for Oscar. Oscar, before we started rehearsal, about a month and a half before rehearsal, he was sitting at his mother's deathbed saying those speeches because his mother adored Shakespeare. And to watch him, to watch a person be that daring every day, to watch a person go, oh, well, no, every day, which is what we're all supposed to do. Not necessarily right now, but I mean, so, you know, it was so meaningful. It was meaningful because I was understanding it on so many levels. There'd be days when it was fun. Oscar's such a playful man, and the play had such a buoyant energy about it. Sam was very, very strategic. Let's keep it as buoyant and as fun and as clever and as sharp as we can for 2 acts. And then we earn kicking them in the teeth in the third act. But you can't come out at the top of the piece and just start beating everybody down. You know what I mean? And Oscar, I'm sorry, I jumped. Oscar was always very good at saying at the end, like we get off stage at the end of the play and be like, whoo, just made it. You know, just say, you know, and there were days where what that meant was there'd be days where you'd go, whoo, just made it, and just start weeping. Because hold it. I had an acting teacher in graduate school, I'd never forget this, for dramatic work more than comedic work, but both. Surface tension, you know, in the beer commercial, and you pour the beer, and then the head goes, and then there's it's called surface tension, where the beer's hanging. If you just tap the glass, it would pour over the side of the glass. You want to keep them there the whole time. You want to keep the surface tension the whole time. Weep all you want at home. But Oscar watched a whole bunch of other Hamlets, and he's like, geez, oh, Pete, with the crying. You know? So he did everything he could to, you'd see tears squirting out of his face, and he's just moving forward and driving it forward. It was as if he was saying, screw me for crying. And that's what you want, don't do it. And then there were days you couldn't make it. You know, there were days where and so it was great, I loved it. It was counterintuitive, especially for a young actor. When you're young, you're like, I didn't do it tonight, I didn't have it, I didn't cry. You know what I mean? As opposed, it's the opposite. We're trying to get off the stage before we start crying. We're trying to get off the stage before we start crying. And so it was, and it was Sam giving us these little guideposts to get to kind of re-energize yourself emotionally. So re-energize yourself emotionally, but don't cry. Yeah. Don't cry. Get in the mud, go around, and then, you know, we did anyway. There are moments where you're allowed to have these little release valves. Yeah. It's hard watching Gail sitting there in the mud and men holding her and weep. It's too much. It's too sad. I mean, so there are those moments that are organic and right and real, and yes, you can let it go, but don't, come on, guys, from the beginning. I mean, So it was very important to him that it was about people trying to communicate with each other and doing what every actor's supposed to do, which is what am I trying to achieve and what am I willing to do to get it? What am I willing to do to get it? Are you willing to be a fool? Are you willing to open yourself up enough? Are you willing, it was everything I wanted it to be. Yeah.
It seems so freeing for all of you. Like you said, you think it's a long show. It's not. The time flew by so fast, and I've seen so many Hamlets. But there was something very visceral about this one, and like you said, heart-to-heart kind of thing, where the connection.
Yeah, we cut a lot out of it.
Yeah.
We cut a ton of stuff out of it. We cut Fortinbras out of it. There's a lot of the palace intrigue that isn't in it. Yeah. Because Sam said, I want to cut as much out of it as I can so that I can still take 4 hours. Because I want you to be able to pause. I want you to be able to feel each other and see that and go, is that what you meant by that? I want you to be able to live in it. And I don't need it to be this adroit, muscular thing. Yeah.
So was that the hardest thing, like saying you wanted to go into finally playing this role as you sort of learned Hamlet classically? in school.
yeah.
Then you go now and like we just like strip it away.
I thought I was going to be able to do this. Thought I was going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And Sam's like, no, that's not how I work. This is how I work.
Wow.
This is how I work. So I gave you this role. We talked about this for a while. I need this from you. You can do this in another person's production if you feel so inclined. But here, this is what I need from you.
Right, so all those years of improv and doing everything like this on the spur of the moment, did that help you?
It
How
did.
you worked on this?
Because every day of my life when I work,
Yeah.
on camera or on stage, I'm always trying to achieve, I shouldn't say a feeling. I don't mean a feeling or a quality, but I'm trying to achieve an essence of what I do when I improvise.
Yeah.
Because as I was just saying earlier, I didn't do this earlier, but you should do this with friends. If you're in a rehearsal process, do this with friends before you, it's almost like a Stanislavskian etude, right? You can do this before you get into your script. Just have a dialogue with each other. And when I speak with you, I'm gonna talk, and what I need you to do for me, this is the exercise, is you need to start your next sentence with the last word that comes out of my mouth. So what I'm doing to help you is not end on the word mouth, because no one's ever started a sentence with the word mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's have a dialogue between you and I.
I love this.
I love this. This
Yeah.
is the exercise I'm talking about.
About this.
This isn't easy to do.
Doobie-doo.
But do you feel
Yeah.
the surface tension?
Oh yeah, totally.
Because
Like, who'll come out? Yeah.
I'm trying to give him a word that makes it easier for him to start his sentence.
Yeah.
He must listen to every word I'm saying to get the last word, and that's what you want to feel on stage when you've learned lines. I had a friend who shall remain nameless, who's an actor that I've worked with a bunch, and she said she was talking to another actor who was a friend of hers, was a classmate of hers, and he said, "Man, I gotta tell you, man, I'm gonna start doing this Sutherland Brando thing, where Nicholson, I'm gonna get the ear, and then because it feels like it's like it's fresh, like they're giving you the line, and then you're just saying the line." And she goes, "Or do what we got trained to do." Learn all the words so well that you forget them and they just pop out of your mouth in the situation. You could also do that.
That is wonderful.
I mean, it's like, come on. Any show on Broadway, there are people paying $400 for tickets. They should be getting all of our craft. They should be getting all of our craft. I want to go see All the Way with Bryan Cranston and go, he's still talking. And it looks to me like he's behaving, and he's still talking, and he's still talking. That's part of the money I spend on my ticket, is to walk out at the intermission gobsmacked and go, this guy's got like all the dialogue. It's like a 3.5-hour show. Woo! We should be getting the same experience that Springsteen gets.
Yeah.
You see Springsteen perform. I saw Springsteen perform, and I went to the bathroom after the show, and this guy comes up and he goes into the stall next to me, and he's like, "Jesus Christ, man, it's fucking unbelievable. I paid like $600 for those tickets. It was worth every penny." But not because it was Springsteen, because he's still a master of his craft.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah, the first $50 to $150 is those first few minutes of the show when you go, "Ooh, I'm this close to Springsteen." But then you remember why he's Springsteen.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's happening in Meteor Shower with Amy.
Oh yeah.
They don't know what they're gonna get, and they go, "Well, I'll be damned. She's good." You know what I mean? You get your first 15 minutes like, it's Amy Schumer. And then you realize she's so good. But that's because we should be doing our craft. That would be cheating if you were on stage and had an ear. That's cheating, right?
Yeah.
In the Olympics, you get disqualified. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In movies, what if they disqualified people in movies? It's like, what's this? Oh no! Yeah. And we had a committee of, he's out, get the other one in, roll him in,
Roll him in.
Roll the guy.
Well, getting into film, you transformed effortlessly into films. So let's chat about some of the highlights and just tell me what comes to mind, a story or a memory. Horrible Bosses 2.
I think what comes to memory is starting to have a really lovely relationship with Charlie Day.
Yeah.
Charlie Day is I enjoy him so much. He's a hardworking guy, and I like spending time with people who are creators. You know, he created that show. He created It's Always Sunny with his 2-3 friends, and very, very creative being. I cherish the relationship I have with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pitch Perfect 2.
Gave me a sense of, I had a sense of confidence that I could do something that might be meaningful or substantive in a very short amount of time. I was only there for a day and a half. I just flew from LA, flew to Baton Rouge, shot it, and flew back. And also, again, working with Elizabeth Banks as a very collaborative director. Very collaborative director. Yeah, she's really wonderful. Super whip crack smart. Yeah, and lets you, very good shepherd. Nowadays in film, with all the improvisation that's happening in film, I'm starting to call directors shepherds. They're shepherding the performance a little bit. You know what I mean? And there's room for that, but the best ones are the ones that have defined gates around that pasture. You want really defined gates around the pasture. If it gets too like this, then the editor's like, it's a mess. I don't think we have a movie here. Yeah. And Liz was, yeah.
So what is it like, you as an actor, like you said, you flew in on a plane, you get on the set, you do it, and you fly out.
Yeah, sometimes it's weird.
Yeah.
You have to be in the moment because it's like a blur. And then you're on the plane back home and you're going, oh God, was that any good? And you don't know. Like there were times where there were days when we were shooting on Friends from College, and Nick would move and move and move and move, and you'd be looking at your fellow actors and just going, I don't know what this is. Like I don't know if this is gonna be something. It's tough. It's hard. You gotta try to stay in the moment and try to make the best of just that moment and hope that is gonna translate on screen.
We'll go into Friends from College. Incredible series on Netflix. Nick Stoller, right?
Yes, Nick is great. Nick and his wife created, his wife Francesca Del Banco, they created it, and it's, they always say semi-autobiographical, and I go, which parts? You know, it's like, if you've seen the show. And so he's wonderful, because he's also another different kind of collaborator. I've been very, very fortunate in my career to work with wonderful collaborators. It's not hard for me because I want everyone to like me. That's my issue. I want everyone to like me. So if you're like a General Patton type of director, I'm still your man.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to fight you. Sometimes to my detriment. Don't do that, guys. Whatever you do, just right now start saying, not comfortable doing that. That doesn't make sense to me. Do it. Just do it. I'm at 46. I'm learning to not be a fraidy cat. Don't be a fraidy cat at 25. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because there's just going to be days, and you're going to go to a premiere, and you're going to watch the movie you're in, and you're going to regret it. You're going to absolutely freaking regret it. You're going to go, why did I make that choice? Why did I listen to them when they didn't know what they were talking about? I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. And you can be kind. For the last 10 years of my life, I've watched Jordan Peele do it. Here's my boundary. Here's my boundary. And I'm gonna loft flowers over it. Just gonna loft a lot of sunshine and flowers, but they're very definitive boundaries. And I'm gonna be an artist this way. I'm gonna smile and be cooperative and lovely, but I'm gonna be an artist this way. And then everybody knows where you stand. So it's never too late to start doing that. So it's important.
So Friends from College.
Yeah.
Ethan, what a great role.
Yeah.
Do you like him? Do you like playing him?
Well, he's despicable. I love playing him. He's despicable. But he's not despicable. He's kind of, I can't think he's despicable. But because he's living his life and he's just doing the best he can in his life for him, right? He's a little to the left of Jack, who I played in Don't Think Twice, who's just also like a quietly ambitious person and wants what they believe is best for the world, right? We all have that. We all have the prism through which we see the world. So he's a lot of fun to play because in the moment, it's just a lot of fun. And then when I watch the episodes, I go, oh God, what a horrible person. So I can, it's good because I know how to compartmentalize. I can compartmentalize when I'm on set and just have fun being Ethan and living the essence of Ethan and doing all that good stuff. And then letting the editors do their thing and not being involved as a producer is great sometimes because you just do your thing, have a blast, and then let them sculpt it and shape it into what it's going to be with the material that you give them. Yeah, he's great.
Wasn't your character introduced with a big nude scene with Annie?
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy.
What is that like?
You know, here's what puts you at ease. It's just, you meet somebody and you have to have small talk, but there's got to be a couple of jokes to kind of break the tension. You just have to have jokes. And Annie and I have mutual friends, and you talk about your mutual friends and how long have you known Miriam? Oh, I've known Miriam this long. Oh, our kids go to school together. Oh, good, that's wonderful. And this is gonna sound strange, but for me, it's nice to talk about the person's spouse. Like, you have a spouse, and we're at work. And we're at work. Yeah, no, and Paul's, what's he doing? Yeah, he's still in the thing. Yeah. Okay, no, that's great. Yeah. What's that like? You bring a 64 down in here, and we get that's 24. Yep. Am I good? Am I in the right spot? We're in the right spot. You just make it all about work. It's the worst. Yeah. It's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. It's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. So and as long as you realize everybody's uncomfortable, then let's all just be pros and get through this. It's almost like all the scenes should be nude scenes, and then movies would get shot in half the time. Because everybody's being super, super professional all the time. Action, cut, done, move it, your clothes, and all of a sudden you're just like, wow, we should all get nude all the time because the camera's getting set up, lights in the right place. I'm like, why can't we do this in the scenes when we got the clothes on?
Win It All.
Oh, Win It All.
Great movie.
Jake Johnson, love. Another guy, same feeling I have with him and Charlie. Just this kind of like, feel like they're brothers, improv brothers, you know. And it's nice to make, sometimes it's fun to make a movie that doesn't have a script. just scenarios, It's just a long version of Curb Your Enthusiasm,
The comedy, Why Him? I mean, you share a screen with Bryan Cranston, James Franco, and Megan Mullally, right?
Yeah.
Hilarious movie. What was the set like, being on that set?
Actually, a very kind set, but also a very warm set, but a very professional set. John Hamburg, who directed that, that's kind of his style. He really wants to make sure everything's in a lane. He's very good at keeping that pasture small, so that you can improvise in here. We're not going to do all this, right? So he lets you stay in here. I'm learning now, these are the directors that are really worth their salt. Because they're always saying, I want you to enhance it as much as you can, being who you are, the same way Sam did in Hamlet. I'm gonna let you do this comic death scene in the middle of our tragedy. That's what you do. So go ahead, Keegan, do your thing, you know? So John lets you do your thing in a small window, and he's always making sure that it's helping the storytelling. Or if it's not, he will very gently discourage you from doing it, which is helpful when you get into the edit. So that was really wonderful. And James and Bryan both also very professional people. Megan, to everybody, especially the theater people. And all three of them are theater people. So it's always being on set, just making sure that you know what's happening next, going to this play. We all had a ton of fun. Crew, cast, all of us had a blast, but really still kind of like secretly, subtly regimented.
It was a fast shoot, wasn't it?
Fast shoot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same. We have a few questions from the audience. This is from Joe. You also co-starred and produced Keanu alongside Jordan Peele. Mm-hmm. How did that film come about, and what was it like working together again? Well,
we had just finished Key and Peele. And so we were in our groove, wherever Joe's. Where's Joe? Is Joe here? Oh, okay. Joe's watching from a secret room? Okay, Joe. Joe. So he, it was just like doing a really long sketch on Key and Peele. Everything was kind of at play. We had a bunch of people from our life doing the show. Peter, who directed, out of 260 sketches, directed like 248 sketches. So he directed the film, so that the shorthand was in place. And it was a really nice, pleasant experience. Super pleasant experience,
This is a question from Struggling Actor.
Struggling Actor. Mm-hmm.
Yes, who's here. What was your longest... In here, there's someone...
No, that's a horrible thing to say, I'm sorry.
What was your longest stretch of time?
It should say actor who is moving forward.
See? I love that.
Actor who is being presented daily by opportunities.
I love that. What was your longest stretch of time without performance work, and how did you stay motivated during that time? Great question.
The longest stretch of time would have been 2 years. It would have been, I'm very fortunate, but that's also because work begets work. If you do not get a paycheck for being a writer, but you write, you're a writer. If you pay somebody else money to act, and you're standing on a stage with another human being, and they say something, and you react to it truthfully, and then you say something, and then they react to it truthfully, and then you say something, and then they say something, you are an actor. You are acting. So the thing is, as long as you are rippling out into the universe the behavior of what you want, you are the thing you want. Think always, struggling actor, or let's say not struggling actor, right? Think always of what your future self is. If you make a roadmap, then you can figure out however you want to get there. If you know you're going to go to Paris, there's a bunch of ways to go to Paris, right? You can go to JFK and fly. You can go to Port Authority and take a bus to another place and fly. You can get on a boat and take a boat across. But you have to have a desire to go to Paris, right? So have the desire to see your future self. What do you want to do? I'm going to talk about my fiance now because of this, right? I'm having this career. I never wanted to be a sketch comedian. That's not what I wanted. But an opportunity came my way when I made a film that I wasn't getting paid for with a bunch of my friends. I'm just going to work. I'm just going to try to work. And if I'm not working, I'm going to talk about what the next piece of work I'm going to do is. And because work begets work. But I got to a place in my life, and my fiance says to me, well, what do you want to do? This is before we were dating. She goes, well, what do you want to do with your career next? I said, I don't know, but like literally, what would you want to do? Like, I mean, well, there's this. And I gave her a bunch of excuses about why I couldn't do what I wanted to do. Yeah. And she said, okay, if you could, without any impediment, do whatever you want to do in your life, whatever you want. And no story. There's no story about why you can't do it. What do you want to do? Still took me a long time to answer the question, because that was uncomfortable for me. And I said, and eventually I got to this place where I was just like wrestling with myself. And she goes, it's really easy. Just tell me what you actually want to do. What are your dreams if there's nothing getting in the way and no one's going to say no? I'm like, well, then, God damn it, I want to do Shakespeare and I want to be Jason Bourne. Fuck you. And she, like, it was so hard for me to just say what I wanted to say and not give an excuse why I couldn't do it. And then she went, okay, well, blah, 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 blah. She happens to be a good friend of Doug Liman, who created the Bourne Identity franchise. I would have never known that had I not answered her question truthfully. Do that. Everyone in this room should do that for themselves. If you didn't have a story about why you can't do something, what would you do? Because you're not a struggling actor. You're just an actor who's currently, at this moment, in stasis. That's all. You're just in stasis at this moment. And I mean this moment. Right now, you may not be in stasis. There might be a phone call from a friend who needs your help on an audition. So work begets work.
Beautiful. From Michael T., which Shakespearean role would you love to play next? I've always been fascinated by the Scottish play. Yeah, I would really, really love to play. Now, see, I'm doing it right now. I almost just said Macduff. No, don't lie to these people, Keegan. You want to know who I really want to play? I really want to play Lady Macbeth. Ooh. Ooh. That's the role. That's the role. Everybody loves, I mean, everybody knows, like, Burbage. Richard Burbage apparently had to say to Shakespeare, you got to put another speech in here. There's not enough stuff in here. Time creeps its petty pace was, like, written later because Burbage was having a hissy fit. About there not being enough lines, which I think is a wonderful piece of history. But anyway, I would play Lady Macbeth. I would love to see what it would be like to play Lady Macbeth. I would like to play Lady Macbeth. That'd be a lot of fun. Great. We'll put that out to Sam Gold and the public.
I would like to, what I like to do in rep? I'd like to, in rep, play Lady Macbeth and Coriolanus. To play those two roles in rep would be amazing.
That's great. From Matt Sager, Do you approach your voiceover projects differently than your on-screen or stage work?
I actually do not. Okay. I'm very active in the booth. I move around in the booth, and I make up, I hallucinate and pretend that there are people there, you know, and I just go, what? No, you're never gonna get, hey guys, listen now. You know, and I have to pretend someone's there. Yeah. And sometimes I'm very fortunate that there'll be a producer who's very animated in the control room, and they'll look at me and stuff like that. I approach it as similar as I possibly can. As similar as I possibly can, because I feel like then they're getting the nuance of you moving through space or reacting to a thing. I always want it to be that, yeah.
Because one of your latest projects coming up is the new Lion King.
Yeah.
So that's like the new Disney. You play a hyena?
I play one of the hyenas. I play Kamari, yeah.
And you had someone in the booth with you?
Well, I've already done most of the voiceover. The second session was with Eric Andre. Eric Andre and I played the two hyenas. and
talk about that booth with the two of you in there.
Right, and it was a big room. It was a big room about the size of this room. If you can imagine this room without the risers, right? Just the length of this room. And with about 15 cameras, because they're capturing our facial movements, just in case they can put them into the hyenas. We'll see if that happens, but it was so lovely to be able to communicate with him and look at his face and then react to his face. So Favreau is watching you act so that he knows that rhythmically, when he does it in the movie, he can go, I say a thing, and then I turn to do this, and then he says a thing, and then you go, did you? So it's not line, line, line. It's line, line, reaction, reaction, line, line. Lines at the same time. Stop talking line, which is how humans talk, right? And he wants to be able to get that in that thing. Same thing with Storks, where we got to improvise a lot with Nick Stoller. We get to improvise and talk over each other. And you can feel the difference when you watch an animated film. You can go, oh, what's that? Oh, they're actually talking at the same time. Much harder to do, but I think worth it.
I love it. Another new project coming up for you is, what's the next new movie you have coming out?
The Predator.
The Predator.
In August, yeah.
Shane
Black.
Shane Black,
Shane
all right.
Black. Shane Black.
What was it like working on that?
He is really something else. He talked about another collaborative director.
Yeah.
Who would sometimes pull me aside. You know, it pays sometimes to be a little mercenary. But like he'd pull me aside and be like, so I'm wondering here, can you whip up some jokes for this part? I'm like, is that in my contract? To whip up some jokes? No. But I was more than happy to do it because it felt great to be, and I got to be on a set with a lot of like, people, like really cool people, like Boyd Holbrook from Narcos, Trevante Rhodes from Midnight, Thomas Jane, the great Thomas Jane, this kid named Augusto Aguilar. Look out for this kid. He's the Latin Johnny Depp. He looks like a diminutive Johnny Depp with these smoldering eyes. You can get lost in this kid. This kid is really something else. And Olivia Munn. And Edward James Olmos is in it. And like great names, like there's not like a big, huge, and Alfie Allen who plays Theon Greyjoy in Game of Thrones. It's a great group. And I feel like I like that sometimes. So like it's gonna feel like a movie, that the movie's the most important thing, as opposed to the A-list actor who's helming the group. I'm really looking forward to it. And Shane picked this group because he wanted a bunch of collaborative actors who felt like a team. And I feel like we feel like a team. He's so erudite and so well read. And you know, I'm sorry, if you wrote Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Lethal Weapon, I'm gonna do anything you say.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to combine two questions from Michael Drumgold and from Julia. Mm-hmm. How old were you?
Julia Drumgold.
Exactly. How old were you when you started writing and knew you could write? And Michael's part is, though you seem focused on acting, will you direct soon?
Writing is probably something I did as early as like 12. I mean, I remember being in our latchkey babysitter's basement, and we were doing like a production of Wizard of Oz, and I was the Scarecrow. And I wanted to add a few things, just a couple elements. So I'm like a rewriter more than a writer, you know what I mean? But just like, there are those moments, you know when you have those moments, Writing, we're all writing every day because there's those moments, especially when you're watching entertainment. You know those moments when you watch entertainment and go, now why in the world would she say that? Why would the writer have her say that? It doesn't make any sense. Or when you see a setup go that's too obvious. Or you see somebody writing a line to elicit an emotional response that's it's reaching too far. And so you go, especially in sketch, where you try to find the cleverest way to do that in the subtlest way. It's tough because you only have 4 minutes, to get the who, what, and the where out there. And so I've been writing since about 12, I think. And it's funny, Jordan describes the way I write. Jordan's kind of what we call a heavy lifter. He's this for hours and hours on end, and he's tapping. And I would come into the office sometimes and just look at him, and he doesn't even know you're there. And he's just, and stops, and then, and this, that kind of writer. I'm a very active writer. If I were to write a play, I would write it the way Athol Fugard wrote a few of his plays, which was to be in a room with people and have cards that have scenarios on them and have everybody improvise around the scenarios, the way Larry David does it. And that's, to me, there's a texture to that writing. Because sometimes, and this is one of the great challenges of writing, when you're a heavy lifter, sometimes your logical brain takes over and types logically, as opposed to an improvisational brain that is behaving the way a human will behave in a moment. You can back up and delete something, and we can't back up and delete, right? An active dramatic moment 5 minutes ago was that, for whatever reason, psychologically, I said, struggling actor, here? And then I had to then backtrack and say something different. That was a snarky thing to say. I can't delete time in the real world. I want to watch that scene where the person says the snarky thing and then goes, oh, right? And go, oh, now how are they going to recuperate from that? Right? Because I was reacting to your reaction to me. But if I'm writing, I have the luxury, we'll say luxury, of that, nah, that's not right. But don't write perfect words all the time. Because if you write perfect words all the time, it smacks of artifice. Does that make sense? But that's the challenge of writing. How do we write so it's demonstrative but doesn't smack of artifice? I got on a tangent, but yes, 12. And yes, I would like to direct. I don't know what that is yet. I don't know where that is in my life yet. That's still murky. That doesn't have the clarity that I needed to have yet for me to be as passionate about it as I want to be.
From Michael D., how do you feel about the current censorship of comedy, and do you think it's good for the art?
It's a mixed bag for me. Yeah. The current censorship of comedy, actually, to be quite honest, I'm not quite sure exactly what that means. I would say we're fettered because comedy's fettered because our reality is so ridiculous that it's hard to satirize a reality that's satirizing itself. So that's very difficult. The other thing is, the other thing that I think is very interesting is that necessity is the mother of invention. It wouldn't hurt us a ton to have a little censorship on comedy so that we would be in a position to go, how do I make the most effective satirical point based on the parameters that have been put around me? I think it's fun. Like, sometimes the most exhilarating improvisational sets are sets where we go, hey guys, let's do a moratorium on any blue material in the set tonight. Let's pretend that the audience is filled with 16-year-olds from 1956. And then all of a sudden, you start pulling references out of your brain that you haven't thought of in years because you're not allowed to swear. And it's lovely when you so sometimes I also encourage people to put parameters on yourself when you're writing or improvising. It's very, very interesting to see what happens.
Beautiful. Yeah. My final question is, what is the best bit of advice that you've been given, either personally or professionally, that you live by?
I think I said it actually earlier, which is the best piece of advice is the thing I just said about think about what you would want to do in your life, in your existence, in your vocation, in your personal lives. in any aspect of your existence here, if you didn't have a story, if you didn't have a story about why you couldn't do it, what would you do? Another way of saying that is also a partner to that is just because it took you a very long time to make a mistake doesn't mean you have to cling to it. And so those are the kind of two pieces. It's very funny. People very often, they travel back and they think about the quote that their uncle told them when they were 12. But you never stop learning. I'm 46, and these the two things I just said to you were something I've learned within the last 18 months of my life. And they've completely changed the way I look at the universe. And so that's the thing. Think about what you want to do if there wasn't a story about how you couldn't do it. That would be beautiful.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
This has been such a treat sitting with you this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, Keegan-Michael Key.